there, so you can let me know when it's time. Right. Good afternoon and welcome to UnitedTV. My name is Kamal Erkan. Today is March 7th, 2025, and this is our 2 p.m. Session, and we are going to cover different topics from healthcare to economics, financial issues, and global issues. But before we start, we are trying different formats, and one of the formats that we have is participation with the questions, and one of our client managers, Alp Santa, is going to be my help today with the questions, and this way we have a more organic dialogue. So I'm going to actually start with an update, which I mentioned, perhaps I mentioned this before. There is a event coming up, 28 Eurasian Economic Summit, and this is something that's going to take place in Istanbul on May 7th and 8th. To the event, the goal of this event is to bring different group of people from different countries in the international forum and have the opinion exchanges and also share the different voices and values. So we are, as United Medical, we are going to be participating at the sponsor level as well. I'm a member of the foundation since last year, and I believe that's going to be a great event. And one of the other things is we are trying to work on a couple of the guests from United States side, but working with their schedule to see what that's going to be look like. It can be potentially it's Sarah McBride, but we still didn't get the okay yet. And then Lisa Rochester is going to be our next stop. So we'll see, and then we'll share those with you. And this is going to be a great event, and I'm proud of being part of it. And hopefully, we'll share more updates with you. Now we are going to cover different topics, as I mentioned. So we are going to start with Luigi Mangione case, and let's start with the questions.
So yeah, Luigi Mangione case has been a topic that was covered multiple times in UnitedTV. So if you would like to walk us through that case, what are some of the key developments so far? How's the public reacting to it?
So there isn't really much happening yet. So I think the next court hearing is going to be on March 16th or 17th, if I'm not mistaken. They are still getting evidence. This is actually one of the pretty disturbing cases that I have seen where someone is being idolized just because he comes from a wealthy family with good education and relatively good looking. Now they're making a hero out of this. He's not a hero, he's a murderer. He killed someone, a father of two, and regardless of whatever the issue that they have, it cannot be killing someone cannot be the solution. And people need to understand that Luigi is just like any other murderer. So if you don't have the sympathy, if this person was black or Mexican or Chinese or Turkish or Middle Eastern, just because you have sympathy because he's a white entitled individual with wealthy background, you need to really question your values because that's broken. If someone is looking at this as hey, like that other person that they deserve to die. No one deserves to die. We are not making that decision. I mean, you go through a lot of insurance issues, and none of those solutions or resolutions, including killing someone. So that's just, I mean, he should be looking for those answers in his own family. I mean, his family benefited from healthcare. They own nursing homes. as you get more experience in life, Alp is going to be at there at some point because I'm much older than you guys are. What you see is it's so disappointing how empty these things can become. So why are we even talking about his like the clothes that he's wearing, and his like trying to influence people who are much younger and not able to actually make certain decisions yet on their own, and then you are putting this person as a god, like almost uh, like here's the idol. So like, why is because he's good looking, he's rich, he's well educated. That actually is something I haven't seen in the last 26 years in this country. At least personally, I didn't see. Now, there were cases like O.J. Simpson and others where the famous people do get away with certain things, but this guy is not famous. Now he is. So, so we won't really know much about this until next. Well, we're already in March, so probably in a week or so. But one rumor that I heard is apparently he has a sex tape. Actually, he has 20 of them that he uh, recorded himself with different individuals with professional lighting and all that. I think we have a very sick person that public is going to see in the next couple of months. Now, for some of those who are actually doing fundraising for him, I think all those people should be questioned by the legal system. Like, because if you are supporting someone who potentially is guilty at this point, and you are giving them financial, I mean, supporting someone on social media versus giving them money, then you are being part of their crime. So I don't want that to be sugar-coated in any way. So anyone who's giving any money to Luigi at this point is part of his crime, and hopefully this madness will be over. And if he did kill this person, the death penalty is the way for him to go, because otherwise he's always gonna make things worse for other people. Like, there will be a Netflix show, and they're gonna idolize him just like they did with the Menendez brothers. So at age 51, I was almost like changing my mind about Menendez brothers, saying that, hey, maybe they are not guilty. They look okay, so maybe parents were so bad. That cannot be the case. So, and then this can be a bad example for public. And if we let this go, then what's going to happen next? So that's kind of like the other problem.
Yeah, absolutely. This is definitely testing the public trust in the judicial system as well.
Absolutely.
And I also did hear that there's a documentary coming out about who is Luigi Mangione. So they're definitely trying to portray himself as not the guilty person that he is, but rather somebody that needs to be studied and learned more about, which is
Right.
not good for the public eye.
There are much to learn from him in a bad way.
Yeah, absolutely. So our next topic today is going to be about President Trump's tariff war with Mexico, Canada, and China. So what do you think were the main goals behind Trump's tariffs, and how do you think these tariffs are affecting our ordinary consumers?
So there is a diagram, and if Ethan is able to bring that up for us, I do want to actually share that with everyone. I did mention this at the last couple events. One of the important part of what's happening today, so I'm going to bring this up so then I don't get bad feedback from our family. So one of the issues that I see is understanding what this trade balance is. I tried to put this is something that I did very quickly. I had these numbers before, but it was in writing. So when we look at the GDP and the export and import between, especially between Canada and Mexico, what we are going to see is a very interesting picture. So right now, U.S. GDP is about 29 trillion. This is 2.2 with Canada, 1.8 with Mexico, and China is at 18, little over 18 trillion. So many of you who follow what we do here and who work with me very closely, you know that I go with data. So data is the most important thing. Now, before I want to actually give this so that before we actually say this is right or wrong, I just want to put the numbers out there to see who should be taking what type of position based on their volume here. Now, Canada, their import to us, what we get from them, is worth almost 34% of their total GDP. Now, what we export to Canada is only 1.2% of our total GDP. So now when we go to Mexico, that number goes up in a way that the import over GDP is 45%. So, and then when we stop getting that, like when we look at the export only, that's 1.15%. So as you can see, these numbers are really different and on almost opposite levels, so that we need to kind of understand. Let's say, again, not getting into whether Trump is right or wrong, but just looking at can he do it and what would this have any impact on us in US? I can see why he's doing it. Now, there are certain things that he's demanding from, especially these two neighbor countries. And one of the other things that I want to make sure that these people, they really should look at their leaders. Like yesterday on social media, on Twitter, you see videos of Justin, the Prime Minister of Canada, Trudeau, crying almost in a speech. So, well, you put your country in that situation. You were in charge for how many years, and you put yourself in that situation. So, and he's an elected official, and if he's not successful, he should go. And he's been in that position for a while. So now with Mexico, it's a little bit different. We don't have the same close relationship as we have with Canada. But I was looking at, we are going to talk about Zelenskyy later on, but why do you put your country in that situation? So why do you have to cry in front of all these people? Because you are not able to manage and you are not able to find new trade sources, resources, and markets, and then you get stuck. So if we are representing a big part of your economy, that country is gonna they can always pull the rug under your feet. So this is something that people should know before we get all these anxiety. Now, I think in the short term, we are gonna see some inflation related to these. Now, the problem with the Trump's administration is now they delay the tariffs on these two countries now until April. So when it's on and off and on and off, on and off, and there's no consistency, the market actually answers this in a really different way. So right now, what we see is yesterday with Nasdaq, this was a record loss. Almost more than 1.2 trillion was gone from the stock market yesterday. So that's because economy and the stock market doesn't like inconsistency, and if you are going to do something, you are going to do it. You cannot use it as a stake. So, but if you are not going to do it, then find out what you want to do. So then it's not like 1 week on, 1 week off type of situation. So now with China's situation is a little bit different. We are again representing a big part of their trade, not as big for Canada and Mexico, but as an individual buyer, if we stop buying from Canada, we can bankrupt that economy. That's dangerous for every country in every different level. So this is also true for businesses. Like we are going through with some changes in United Medical. One of our big clients is leaving. And if that client represents 25% of our revenue today, then we would be in big trouble. But we actually didn't let that happen, and we have different service lines that we generated, we created in time, And well, it's fine if they leave, but then we are also fine because we have other ways of making that. So that's that simple. So the person who's running the country is responsible. So then don't put your country in that situation. That's that simple. So now in the midterm, I think these are gonna actually have a positive impact if we have enough manpower in the United States to replace the loss of products that's coming in. And I know right now we buy a lot of cars from Mexico, and they are not actually they're not Mexican brand, but they're actually completed in Mexico, and then we are paying a lot of money for these. And on the other side, what's happening is we are not actually employ people who can actually work in those factories. Now, I think there's 210,000 Honda Civics, if I'm not mistaken. Now it's going to be, there's a new factory coming up that's going to replace. Now, seeing that is not going to happen in 2 months. That's why I'm saying that short term there will be issues, but midterm and long term, this may work out, and we may see these things being successful in a way. And the other thing is that we always talk about, like, why is Canada not having a good custom border check to make sure that we are safe? The safety is not about weapons. The safety is other weapons like fentanyl. So, like, this is a deadly drug, and if Canada is not putting enough manpower out there to make sure that we are actually not getting these the way that it is right now, then I'm going to change my position on those. And Justin Trudeau is nothing but successful. He's not. He's just he's a loser, and now he's crying. It's embarrassing. So that's what I'm seeing actually. Now I'm maybe more. I have more sympathy for Mexico. They try more and they do more for us in and out of this country. But still, if there are people who are coming in with the crime history, and we went through immigration, so it's not easy. But why are we like? Why do we have to go through that and other people are not, right? So there are things that can be done in a good way, and I think it will find some balance at some point with the Trump's administration. I want to keep the optimistic outlook out there, so then hopefully things are going to be better.
Yeah, absolutely. And this definitely does affect everyone that lives in the country, whether you're, invested in politics or not. So it's very good that you are covering these as your weekly updates in the UnitedTV as well. So next we have the potential Medicaid cuts. I know we talked about this during our United Medical ACO weekly provider meeting last night, but for the UnitedTV listeners, viewers, what are your thoughts about those? What are these proposed Medicaid cuts about?
Now, these are more sensitive issues when it comes to Medicaid population. While Medicaid, for those who may not be familiar with these terms, there's Medicare and there's Medicaid. So Medicare is for those who are over 65, and Medicaid who live in the poverty level. And there are some patients, some individuals who are Medicare and Medicaid, so they may be over 65, but then for their co-insurance part, they may have Medicaid, which we call them dual plans. Those individuals are already struggling financially. And then there's pure Medicaid, where those are a lot of people who live in the poverty. So when this cut happens, this is going to impact low-income families, some seniors. There's also disability, and mainly kids, children actually, who are heavily relying on Medicaid. So now the thing is there a balance? Again, I always look for a balance. What is the balance? You may remember 2 years ago I shared this there is a patient in one of our Medicaid program. It was a kid actually. The total spent was 2.2 million. So why do I know this? Is because we are on a value-based contract and we are responsible for the expenses of these patients. And we look at it like, how did you spend 2.2 million? So if it was a commercial insurance, there's a cap, so then they wouldn't cover it after a certain point, and the family needs to step in. But how did we spend 2.2 million? Patient was in the hospital. This kid was in the hospital. How many individuals do we have like this? It may not be a lot, but what we know is 5% of the individuals are almost responsible, close to 35% of the total cost in these cases. So that means there is some room to improve. I don't think they are going after Medicaid and cutting the program, but I think they are going to bring some precautions to make sure that we can reduce some of the waste in those programs. So I don't see any big radical change, but they will try. But there's so many different setups or structure system that they need to work through, and I don't think this can be one of those. But I think they should definitely look into the cost savings options, make sure that there is no waste. I mean, because when you spend 2.2 million on a child who stayed in the hospital for 2 years, your contribution to that child is with the 2.2 million is not to that child, but you are actually really supporting the hospital who's overcharging. Why do we need to pay that? It comes out of all of our taxes. So while you are doing it, there are maybe 100 individuals who need Medicaid and who's going to be needing that insurance for their day-to-day, what they need to go through for a long time. But then you decide to pay that kind of money with no oversight directly to the hospital system, then that's Medicaid does require some oversight in those cases. So anytime someone says, well, you cannot touch this, there is some waste happening. So we know that for sure. So how it's going to be done is going to be the main issue, and I'm hoping that this won't get into because this population can be easily influenced by certain individuals, certain groups. So, and we want to make sure that this is discussed properly instead of just being pulled into other social issues. So it requires some supervision. It's that simple. So I'm hoping that some meaningful things gonna come out of that.
Yeah, this issue is definitely very important for us too, given the fact that we operate in the state of Delaware, and a big
30% of the population
is Medicaid. So we will
now
definitely.
The issue is like 30% of the population. If we don't do the right thing, and just because maybe 25, 30 different individuals can ruin that program and then have a huge impact on the 30% of the population. So that's kind of like what I'm really trying to tell people. But this is not about cutting the program itself, but cutting the waste in this program is what the main goal is. And hopefully they will find some ways of doing it. Now, there is some cartoonish, images we see with the Trump administrations these days. I think the governing and running the country is more serious, and there are certain levels that needs to be kept. The reason I'm saying that is because I don't want those to overshadow what they are trying to achieve, and we'll see how this is going to work out.
Sounds good. Thank you for that information. So our next topic is definitely important for both of us, given our backgrounds with being born in Turkey, So the Turkey hearing in Congress, the bridge between West and the East. Why is the Congress holding a hearing on Turkey right now, and what do you think will be discussed in this hearing?
So they do this. It's not the Congress making the decision. It's one or two individuals who may actually want to. It's almost like sponsoring a bill. So someone is coming up with different issues that they have, and then they want to present that, and that's the hearing part. And in this one, it started from the pretty negative part, negative side of the approach. Actually, is negative. So there are groups of people in Congress who are not understanding what Turkey's position is and what type of where they should be. Now, what we also need to understand, both of us living here, Turkey is a huge country. So you know, you can't just expect them to just do whatever we tell them to do. They have a very strong president. President Erdogan is, when you look at all the different leaders, he's standing out, and with all the experience and everything that he has, but the way that what we know, what happened to Zelenskyy last week won't happen to Trump, won't happen to President Erdogan ever, because he won't let that happen. So now you are dealing with that type of a country who actually keeps a really good balance while they are being in the middle of all these trouble. Like something happens with Ukraine and Russia, Turkey is in the middle, and mostly as a mediator. So then they're willing to help. Now there's a huge war going on in Syria, and then Turkey is in the middle. There's things happening in Gaza and with Israel, and Turkey is in the middle. So yet Turkey is part of NATO. Now, well, does it mean that Turkey cannot make independent decisions when it comes to doing the right thing? Well, they can, and then they do. So, and then this hearing was kind of like trying to go after Turkey's independent position in these issues, and I don't think it will go anywhere. But I think it also helps those who support Turkey to maybe better understand and make a better point of these issues. Well, because of this hearing, I had to talk to a couple of our senators and Congress people. And if this hearing didn't happen, I wouldn't give that much information, right? So there's always, like, you know, what I learned from Dr. Ergal is there's always a positive perspective of these issues. So yes, it was not initially the motivation was not good, but it brings opportunities so that you make a better point. So I spent a lot of time with a couple of our local people here, elected officials, to make sure that they have a good understanding of why certain things are happening. So, you know, the double standard is something that Western countries, unfortunately, are known for. So you can do certain things if you are British, like having a monarch is like speaking of freedom and freedom of speech and democracy, and then you have a monarch, but then you still tell other people that they cannot have that. That's what Western culture unfortunately has. So this is motivated with that type of an idea. So, but we took advantage of this to make sure that, you know, at least people that I have access to, they knew why Turkey is doing what they are doing. And if you look at what they are doing, is always trying to be the mediator in some cases, like in Gaza's situation, they have a pretty strong ties with Palestine, but they still want to be mediate that situation. So then there's a resolution. So only one who doesn't want to see that is the one who's supporting the war. If you want war and if you want endless war, then you are not going to have mediation. You are not going to, like those people who are trying to bring solutions or resolutions to these. So that's what it is, and I think maybe some good stuff are gonna come out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be waiting to hear about that as well in the upcoming few weeks. And our next topic, this has also been a topic that's been on social media, news, both on TV and newspapers. That the whole world's been talking about the Trump-Zelenskyy meeting at the White House, and there may be some ethical issues related to that. So if you can talk about that a little bit, why did the two presidents meet, and why was the outcome like that?
So now, when I saw the meeting, was I shocked? No. Was I surprised? Yes. Um, it all starts with what happened. So we can't just make the decisions based on what just happened now. We need to see what brought us to this point, right? So why I'm saying that is because with Ukraine, we have a relationship that's started in the Biden administration time with this war. And prior to that, there were history. Prior to that, there were more history in that relationship. And if you take it from 2014 and on, there is this dependency or being kind of relying on U.S. for everything. So a country who's 6,000 miles away from here, relying on us to operate their own politics, economy, and defense. So then in 10, 11 years, what happens? Things changes. Now, if I have the full screen, so this is Mrs. Zelenskyy on the cover of Vogue. Okay, why? Why is she on the cover of this magazine? Well, this was a couple years ago. Now, so if you have that, okay, we have these videos when Zelenskyy was here, and just in the Senate, he was being welcomed by everyone at that time, and everyone was going crazy. And just ask yourself, why is this guy here? Why are we supporting him? So, but why are we getting that support? Because if we are the one who's giving that, at some point we are not going to do that. So we are going to maybe change our decisions. So that's probably what happened now. So if you are not willing to give in and do what we want you to do, and you are not in a position that you are not able to support your own country, and what's going to happen is someone like Trump is going to make a fool out of you, which he did. So now, Zelenskyy was the reason that happened. Now, that's one thing that we need to kind of, at least from my point, I need to make it clear. So Zelenskyy is the reason that happened. Now, what we can discuss is whether or not, when you are in a position where you are the upper hand and when you are the giving hand, should we do that? That's the ethical part of the issue, where the diplomacy is the main issue and should be the base for these. If I was in Trump's situation, even if I'm not going to work with them and support them, I probably wouldn't publicly embarrass him that way. Now, did Zelenskyy deserve that? Absolutely. Now, just because something feels good doesn't mean that you have to do it. And we do this in business. So not every time you have seen so many meetings with me, and other people have seen so many meetings with me. There are times where we feel like, hey, you know what, we want to just say whatever. But then we don't. Why? Because the right thing is not that. You don't want your record to be like that. So I think between Trump and now the crazy Elon, like he used to be the okay Elon, like he's like Tom Cruise, like, you know, after he jumped on that couch on live TV, everyone kind of distanced themselves from him. But before that, everyone loved him. So, the the issue is now with the Elon is like he kind of got crazy. So now I'm putting the distance now. So, but overall, if you are gonna give them an opportunity, they will take advantage of that. But again, would that happen with President Erdogan? Absolutely not. That's that simple. So you need to kind of see why that happened again. So who made that? Now, ethically, I don't think it's right.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And the next update from the Trump administration is obviously about the Greenland and the Panama Canal.
Well, I'm all for Greenland. I don't care what people say.
So are we
I
getting
think
Greenland?
I think we need to get Greenland because if you don't get Greenland, Russia and China are going to be occupying that place. Now, the Denmark, very kind of like bad reputation with taking advantage of other countries in the past. Many people may or may not know what they have done in Africa and other places in the early 1900s, just so that they can actually, get these other countries from, slaving them, and extremely racist, extremely inefficient, and then they just build their own country based on what they stole from Africa, just like Belgium did. So, cutting people's hands so that they wouldn't be able to work to make that rubber plant. I can't remember the name now, but if they refuse to work, somehow they would just cut their hands, both hands, and then they would actually put those people up in public, and then they would kind of, have other people see them. It's almost like an exhibit. So this is what Denmark did in Greenland. So those people, the people actually from Greenland, they were abused by the Denmark administration, and now they have an option. So now the option maybe two, like if they are just coming to, like if they are saying that, hey, we want to be part of US, that's one way. But if that doesn't happen, then we would get our own share to make sure that we protect the US rights and benefits and potential conflict, because you don't want to have a huge Russian army or the Chinese army on Greenland. That's not going to happen. So on that, we definitely need Greenland, and I support Trump 100% on that.
Okay. And what about the Panama Canal?
So again, same thing. So there are, whom built the Panama Canal is like United States. We operated until 1999. I mentioned this in some of the other programs that I participated, and many people forget these things, that they think that just happened. And why we did it wasn't because we love Panama, is because we want to make the trade easier. So then once you have that thing open, then you don't have to go all the way around the South America, which would take months to complete one trip for these ships and others. And now, boom, like you go from one end to the other. It's almost like humongous savings on time and energy and other stuff. So, and then we told the local government there is that you have to make sure that you are running this and you are not letting other countries take over the operations. Well, now that operation is changing, and every day there's more control from China. And guess what? Again, like this is where you would use your power. That if we don't take care of that now, 20 years from now or 10 years from now, that will become a huge problem, and that will be a reason for a war. But if you do it now, you can actually do it with the diplomatic ways. And I think both Greenland and Panama, Trump actually is doing the right thing. And that's why I was telling in the Turkish TV, if you remember, this is maybe one way of Americans to have the empathy to understand why Turkey has to defend their own borders. and America is doing it for the right reasons. And I think as long as it doesn't go into the war, hopefully, that should be done from the diplomatic ways, and hopefully that can happen.
Absolutely, yeah. Both these places are very strategically important to the
It
U.S.
is, right. So I think that's all we have for today. And I know we are trying different formats, and I know you guys are being so flexible with me. And we are making some changes in the studio. I want to make sure that we do some RCM sessions here with our team, and you have done twice before, I believe. So we can make the on-camera sessions. So, and we are going to improve the studio a little bit more. And today we have one of our bariatric patients for the Bariatric Friday. That's why we did it at 12 noon instead of 3 p.m. That was a very interesting session. Maybe first time I got nervous, not in a bad way. It's just like I got maybe a little bit too excited about it, because that's the first time we are doing it, and not to know what to expect from the patient, because we didn't know each other. And she did a great job, and we want to thank her again. And that episode, if you missed it, it was right before this one. It's a great episode. I personally enjoyed it a lot, and we are hoping that we can do more like those types of sessions in the future. And that's all we have for today. Well, thank you for joining me, and we'll be back next week. I believe we have the Deltec president, Mark Baynard, is going to be with us. And now, John Carney, when he finishes cleaning the streets and the neighborhood projects and painting some St. Patrick's Day projects, he's going to join us. But he's working really hard, so it should be in the next couple of weeks. And then we still work with Sima Verma's office to make sure that we reschedule the session with the Oracle Senior Vice President. And we'll be back with more. Well, thank you for watching us, and we'll see you soon. There, so you can let me know when it's time. Right.